Hello, beautiful people. If you didn't see the first video in my war series, go back and watch it. I'm just kidding. Here's a quick refresher. I started a new character on Pangea when Fresh Start V2 came out with no purpose, but I ended up stumbling into a very exciting new journey. I'm not going to lie, and I think most people know, it used to be very hard to get into the war scene. It seems that the release of New World Aeternum and expansion to console, combined with veteran players feeling fatigued and burnt out, has opened up war to more players, and on many servers, the war scene is way more relaxed than it used to be. Anyways, I had the incredible luck of being in the right place at the right time, and in the right faction, so I was able to get my foot into the door of the war scene with none other than Chicken Mans. When Chicken Mans left Pangea, Cosmic Scales, another well-known war company, took us in and continued to show us the ropes. But they also left the server, and with that, I was back to where I started. A new Fresh Start character with no purpose, running circles around the fountain in Brimstone. Or laying down in the water. If you know, you know. War with Chicken Mans and Cosmic was nothing but fun. They were so knowledgeable, patient, and were just trying to have a good time. I was a little bummed that I was no longer with them, but I wasn't committed to this character at all, so unfortunately, I didn't transfer to Hudson Land with them. But that wasn't the end of my journey. That was just the beginning. So go ahead and sit back, relax, maybe grab a snack, and let me introduce you to the dark side of the war scene. Things are about to get real spicy. I have 1,700 hours on New World. Those are rookie numbers compared to a lot of veterans, but I do be getting distracted by hot new games, and I step out on my main games quite often. I do always end up coming back. I like to think of New World as sort of my ride or die game. No, it never has anything too exciting going on, but it's dependable and always there for you. You just know what to expect. And there's no subscription, which makes it a very easy game to fall back on. I'm not sure where I was going with this. Oh, I have a decent amount of time into this game, at least by my standards. So that's why I wasn't really committed to doing anything with this character. If I make a new character, it has to be for a reason, to do something I haven't done, and it was really interesting to experience the new main story questline and all of the new soul trials that didn't exist when I made my other characters. On the real, Artemis and Isabella kicked my booty. Isabella actually kind of tilted me. When I started warring with Chicken Mans and Cosmic and their baby learner companies, I was logging in every day to try and get leveled up and work on my war build. I had purpose and drive, so when that was gone, I just kind of abandoned Madam Milk and went back to my main. I would log in randomly and do some OPR just because it's nice to be on an account that no one recognizes sometimes. I'm not any crazy good player, but some people knew who I was because I was a healer and I basically lived in OPR for a long time. I would get hard focused a lot on my main, and sometimes I didn't want to play like that. I don't always want to sweat and be chased. I could kind of chill on Madam Milk because no one was expecting anything. One day, when I logged in to run a few OPRs and chill, I got a message from someone asking me how many people were still in the Cosmic Company. I replied and said just a few. They left the server, and then they invited me to join a company called Ace Legion. Again, without thinking, I just said, what the hell, why not, and I joined up. I was trying to be fully open to new experiences. We try everything at least once, right guys? Little did I know I was about to go on a wild ride. Now, in all honesty, I probably should have seen this coming because only a few days after I joined Ace Legion, I was warned about them. On December 29th, someone from the Baby Cosmic Company reached out and asked me if I had found a new company, and I was like, yeah, the Ace Legion, they seem pretty chill. And their reply was, and I quote, oh no, well good luck with them, not a fan of what they're doing on the server. Yeah, so I mean, listen, I don't like drama, and when I say I don't like drama, what I mean is that I don't like to be the drama, but I dang sure like to know about the drama. So of course, I wanted to get the tea. And of course, not just being nosy, it mattered because I had just joined this company. And now someone's telling me to be careful with them? Oh gosh. So I just told them flat out, I don't know what they're doing on the server, and they said they don't treat people well. Specifically, and I quote, randomly kicked people who were trying to get gear sets they required to do wars with them, even though they were farming and spending all their gold to meet the standard that they had, being toxic when mistakes were made, asking people to merc for them and pulling them out of war last second, and then cussing them out when they asked what happened, and just being eggplants, he didn't say eggplants, in general to people who aren't their friends. They've also tried to get buddy-buddy with us just to find out which of us is war ready so that they could try to poach us. Now, I hadn't personally experienced any of this behavior yet, so I did say thank you for letting me know because it is good to know how other people perceive the group that you're joining, and I just kept it in mind as I observed how things unfolded in the coming months. And boy, did things unfold. Alright friends, before we get into the thick of it, I want to say two things. First of all, this is not intended to be a smear campaign. I wanted to include interviews with all of the governors of the companies that I was in, and maybe a few other people involved, but unfortunately, the governor of Ace Legion was not interested in talking about it, so if things seem a little one-sided, it's because they didn't want to talk to me, which is fine, and honestly, I'm not surprised at all because things took a very sour turn and got a little weird at the end. And second, I'm trying to get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of this year, and we're already over 7,000, which is incredible. So if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button because it'll make me really happy. Now that that's out of the way, let's get back to the story. So, like I said, when I first joined Ace Legion, I didn't really notice anything weird going on. The company was just having fun, they were making bold moves, and I could see how that would ruffle some feathers. The person who warned me about them also said that they were making multiple companies to take the whole map, and that just wasn't true. They only had 2 companies, which is pretty normal for a war company, and only one of them was holding territories. They did hold a lot of territories, but it really wasn't that deep.
So we're Ghost Legion still at this time, building it up. All right, now we're getting full war rosters, but these 4, not full war roster. I say we're getting like 40 people for a war roster. We couldn't fill 50. And these Ace. What were they called? Ace Squad company. Somebody approached me. Was like, hey, we got about 10 solid war players that are experienced. I was like, oh, that's awesome. That's exactly what would help push us over to being a company that can take a bunch of territory again. And I was getting burnt out anyways at that time. So I was like, there's nobody in our company helping me lead anyways, so I think I mostly just welcomed them. I'm like, yes, because I need help leading, and there's nobody helping me right now. Yeah. And then a lot of people did not like that when they first came. People didn't like how they talked. Yeah. People didn't like their plans, things like that. So we lost a few members during that time. All right, so let Batty or Peter, let him lead for a little bit. I think we were with them for a month or so. It was a good amount of time, actually. So we renamed ourselves Ace Legion. Not my pick, just we let everybody vote for the name. And I think they must have gotten all their Ace guys to vote for that name, and everybody that was in Ghost Legion kind of spread out their votes.
That's false, bro. We voted for Ace Hardware, it won. And you and Batty were like, nah, something real. But we dead ass thought like we really wanted Ace Hardware.
I didn't give him governor position right away. I was like, we win the next 4 wars, I'll give you governor, because you need to have time to, and you guys need to come over here to voice chat and talk to people. And really, the only person that was putting in effort to do that was Peter. Yeah. So Ace Legion's born. I think we could have owned every territory if we wanted to. We weren't trying to do that. Yeah, the only people that could attack us and win at that time was Visibility, because our defense strategy was still pretty bad. Visibility got weaker, we got stronger, and then it started to become easy to beat those guys.
At first, and for a while, times were really good. I was back on the war high, riding the Ace Legion wave. We were racing or warring almost every night. We were winning. I felt like I was making new friends again. They were super nice and very welcoming, at least to me. I cannot really speak for other people, and I know other people had different experiences with them, but I personally can't complain about how I was treated. To me, they just seemed like a great group of people enjoying the game. Ace Legion is also where I was exposed to war politics for the first time. I guess I stood out to them for some reason, probably my majestic lady beard. So I was asked to merc quite often for other companies to help them win wars, but it was super last minute most of the time. It was always like 10, 15 minutes before a war, I would get a message asking if I could log in and fill a spot. And I did. I wanted to be available and try to get as much experience as possible as fast as I could. Because if I had learned anything so far, it was that you could be in a war company today and not have one tomorrow. The last minute slotting was a little annoying and kind of stressful, but I was just happy to participate. We also helped companies from other faction hold territories if we had alliances with them. What you do is you run missions during a race to try and win the declaration, and then you don't declare so the other company gets to keep the territory. Our allies did that for us as well sometimes, but we did have a lot of defense wars. That said, I did learn that defense wars aren't fun if there's no competition. Attack wars are over as soon as you capture the fort, so if the other team is undermanned or there's a huge skill gap, you can end the war in less than 5 minutes. On a defense war, however, if you're the defending company, the war isn't over until the clock runs out. That means if it's a farm war, you just have to run around doing nothing for 30 minutes if you want the war chest. For a long time, most of our defense wars consisted of us running out, pushing the other team back to war camp, and then they would literally trash talk us from inside of war camp for 30 minutes while we ran around emoting in circles. This was not fun at all. During these defense wars, I did notice something interesting. A lot of people did not like Ace Legion and would declare on us and not send an army just to annoy us and make us waste our time, a tactic that Ace Legion would actually go on to use later. I also remember one time a company declared war on us on some sort of a special day. I can't remember exactly now, I'm getting old, but it was a holiday or event that people were watching, and that's just something you don't do for obvious reasons. So we took their territories and wiped them off the map. We were pretty much invincible, until we weren't. One fateful day, a yellow company called Opposition joined the server. Them joining was a critical event for our company, and from there, things would eventually fall apart for Ace Legion. Well, I guess I should mention that we weren't Ace Legion anymore. After a merger with another company called Bisability, we became Bis Legion. Opposition was a good, solid war company. I mean, they were really good compared to everyone else on Pangea at the time, and they knew it. They almost immediately started to dominate the server, taking any territory that they wanted. They were essentially having their way with Pangea. And on top of that, they did not like our company. In their own words, they were liberating territories from the oppressor. So what didn't they like about us? Well, they definitely didn't like that we zerged races to keep them from declaring war on us. Eden Grove is a premium territory for war companies, and Bis Legion defended it until its dying breath. We would allow our ally company to take towers and run some missions to win the war bid, while we fought opposition and stopped them from taking towers and running missions. They might be able to farm us in war, but we would show up in full force for an influence race and win with numbers. At this point, we still had 2 companies, and everyone was highly motivated. I'm also sure that they didn't appreciate the fact that when they first joined, we refused to war against them. When they came to Pangea, they made it very clear that they were there to take as much territory as they could get and collect gold until server merges. And to be fair, that's exactly what they did. But because they came in with that attitude, our governor basically told us that they didn't deserve war content. So we essentially stopped warring. For defense wars where opposition declared on us, we were told to sign up for war, log in, hang out around the war boards, make it look like we were going, and then we just wouldn't go and waste their time. Remember earlier when I said that strategy would be used by Ace Legion? here we are. We also declared war on them and didn't slot it. Again, just making them log in case we were going to show up, and essentially denying them content. They were obviously upset. I mean, this was kind of toxic behavior, and they complained about it so much that our governor changed the name of the company to Beg for Content. Now let's be real, I'm sure that was a huge part of the decision to let go of our territories and not war. Oppo did have big egos and a pretty bad attitude, at least from what I could tell based on what they were saying. I'm sure some of them are great people when they're not trash talking in global chat, but if I had to guess, I'd imagine that we also didn't fight back because we knew deep down that we couldn't compete. We'll never know the real reason, and that's not what we were told, but I mean, it's kind of obvious. If someone shows up and tells you that you're trash, the easiest way to shut them up is to show up and prove them wrong, and we couldn't do it. Eventually, we did start to war against them, but of course, we were no match. We ended up fighting them only just a few times. The first time we were 2-point held, the second time we took them to fort, and the third time we were 2-point held again, and from there, things started to devolve pretty fast. And when I say 2-point held, what I really should say is 2-point farmed. We honestly didn't really stand a chance. Morale was low, people were jumping ship, the Ace leadership was becoming increasingly more mean, calling people in the company some words that I'm not going to use in this video, especially while we were warring and things weren't going well. Basically, the more L's that we took, the more toxic the leadership became. I personally didn't like the direction that the company was headed in. I was kind of close to just quitting because I was over it, but by this time I had decided to make a video series, so I just kept showing up, recorded some footage, and enjoyed the show. As you can see, the toxicity was starting to increase little by little, until one day they finally embraced the dark side completely. Whether we weren't warring because of our merger, because we didn't like their attitudes, or because we were scared, it doesn't really matter. After we finally started warring again, and losing, Ace Legion imploded.
We had a good thing going, but then, some of the people in our company, some of the Ace people started freaking out, and they're like, we can't fill a war roster anymore. This is like less than a week after one of our wars. They started freaking out. It's like we need to just go to another company that's active and just start fresh. We don't want to lead anymore. We just want to play war. And I disagreed with that. I told them, trust me, guys.
They banned something they didn't make. That's the problem. They could have just taken their Ace people and fucked off. And
that was
fucked off. You know what I mean?
That was the problem. They were trying to disband the company. And I remember the night before, I was pretty ticked off talking to a couple people, especially Lost and Stormy and somebody else was in the chat. I had to remind them, look, some of you guys have only been here a couple weeks. I've been building this for months. I don't know who the hell you are to, tell me to put this to a vote. I don't really run the companies like that where I let everybody vote for a decision, because usually people's decisions are pretty stupid. Disbanding the company, no. I tell people no, that's not going to happen. I don't think some of them actually knew that I started the company in the first place. Like Lost, I had to break it to him, like, dude, do you understand that, even though Peter is the governor, that, he's governor only because I'm burnt out right now. So they started leaving the next day, and Peter was like, I'm going to take a break, giving Ghost Warrior governor again. I was like, all right. It's like, Peter, can we still use the Discord? He's like, yeah, sure. And then later on, I asked Peter, hey, Peter, you don't care if we just move this to our old Discord, right? Because he was going to be a part of our company still. He just wasn't going to play the game, is what I understood. He was just going to warlog and take a break. He's like, yeah, fine. Let's move to the other Discord. So the day after I made the announcement on the Ace Discord, I log in, and I'm muted from the Discord. Like, I can't talk with anybody in there. Like, I'm muted on all the channels. I can't make announcements. And mind you, I'm trying to run the company. Like, all right, I'm muted. And then I see that my permissions got taken away too. So I don't even have permissions in the company chat anymore to talk or even to see it. Really, I couldn't see it. I could still see our leadership chat for some reason though. So now I'm thinking, oh shoot, somebody doesn't want me to start moving players over to the old Discord. And I realized that some of the Ace leadership that left, they're trying to take more players, and they're trying to poach them while there's still confusion around what's going on with everybody, because not everybody knows what the heck's going on. We had a bunch of players go to unknown trainers at this transition time, and I realized what they were doing. They're trying to poach people, and these people that they're poaching don't have any idea what's going on. They just think people are moving to unknown trainers.
They were just poaching them to a fake company too. It's a burner company.
We got a bunch of players back from unknown trainers, and I think that pissed off a couple people over there in unknown trainers. That hey, now I'm getting a bunch of players back because they're realizing what's going on. At the same time, we had the gold stolen, obviously, from these guys. That wasn't their gold; it was the company gold.
The nonsense wasn't just limited to leadership. The A Squad started committing acts of terror against the rest of the company, determined to destroy it. At least that's what it seemed like from the outside looking in. Again, no one from Ace wanted to talk to me, as I'm sure you can understand why now. So I can only tell you what I saw and what I experienced firsthand. What the real reasons were for doing all this are and will remain a mystery. One of the officers that the A Squad brought in left during this time, but not before he stole all of the gold in the company treasury. Now, it wasn't a crazy amount of gold or anything. By this point, we're talking maybe 400,000 gold. It's more about the principle, you know? He took something that wasn't his, that everyone else worked for. When he was asked why he did it, he said that some people came in to help the company improve, worked very hard, and so they deserved all the gold because we wasted their time. I mean, I suppose that's one way to look at it. I don't think anyone had their time wasted. Just because we weren't able to beat Oppo doesn't mean we were throwing. Sometimes the other team is just better, and bringing in 4 new people and a shot caller isn't going to change that overnight. The A Squad also created a shell company after they left the Legion, and the old governor started sending out invites to everyone they could. This company was not real, it was just to get as many people as they could out of the old company and on war cooldown. They would do this multiple times and even send out fake company invites when war pools were happening to try to trick people into accepting the invite without reading because they were expecting an invite for war. And like Ghost Warrior said, some people followed the A Squad to unknown trainers thinking that we were going there. I couldn't believe how childish it all was. I still don't understand why they tried so hard to ruin the company. Maybe something happened behind closed doors that I don't know about, but they definitely held a serious grudge and were just on an absolute rampage. One of their last acts of terror was definitely the worst, or most creative depending on how you look at it. A friend of the A Squad guys joined the Legion while we were restructuring and all this, and just honestly trying to keep our heads above water. Unfortunately, in an attempt to keep the ball rolling on wars and morale high, pretty much anyone who wanted a leadership role was given one without a bunch of vetting, it seems. This friend of A Squad was given a rank in the company that allowed them to kick members, and with this power, they proceeded to go full Trojan horse on the company. Yep, that's right. Before anyone could do anything, they kicked almost everyone. This Legion was empty. After that, there was a little trash talking here and there, but they finally seemed to have stopped throwing what I can best describe as a major temper tantrum and moved on with their lives. They left the Legion alone, and Ghost Warrior started to rebuild once again. He got everyone back into the company, and the name was changed to the Last Legion. And that, my friends, is where we're ending our story today. And so, Ace Legion was my first real taste of a toxic war environment. While I didn't love that side of the experience, it was pretty great for a video. I probably couldn't have written and scripted a better story if I tried. We went from top of the world to shattered into pieces within just a few weeks. I learned that war companies move fast, change often, and alliances are fickle. Will Ghost Warrior be able to pick up the pieces of the Legion and lead us back to victory? You'll have to wait and see. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Warlogger, friends. I hope you enjoyed it. If you made it this far, drop a pineapple in the comments. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, but most importantly, be kind to one another. See you next time, friends!